9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
What's up, everybody? I am your host, a 1950s creepy mannequin. That is my co-host, a radioactive desert of death. And welcome to the Grindhouse Syndicate, where today we enter week 3 of our Fan Appreciation Month, where you guys and gals pick the movies we cover all month long. Just a little something we wanted to do to show our appreciation for your guys' support and interaction with the content we put out. You guys make it fun for us, and we hope we make movies more fun for you. So today we are covering a movie that I hadn't seen since it probably came out. I only remember like a few bits and pieces of the movie. Have you seen it recently?
No.
At least in the past 5 years?
I probably haven't seen this since 2006.
Yeah, I think
or 7 when it came
2006 or
out.
7, yeah.
But I have seen parts of this movie quite a few times since then, but not the movie as a whole.
Yeah, today we are covering the remake of Wes Craven's The Hills Have Eyes from 2006. And this was requested by Travis Ether from Spotify. So thank you, Travis, and we hope that you enjoyed the episode. Before we jump into this movie, I want to bring up, have you heard about The Strangers Chapter 1?
I've heard some things.
What have you heard?
I've heard some not so good things.
It's not doing well,
Yeah.
to put it nicely.
The few people I read talking about it that did not have very good things to say. I try to stay away from that stuff because I don't want to go into a movie with expectations or something get ruined. But yeah, the few times I have seen, it hasn't been good.
So right now, on IMDb, it has a 5 out of 10. It has a 21% on Rotten Tomatoes. Fandango is a 43%. But this right here is the kicker. The Google audience rating summary is a 2.1.
2.1%?
No, 2.1 stars out of 5.
Yeah,
Wow.
That's pretty rough. You know, the trailer didn't look horrible. I'll say that. I didn't have high hopes for it. I didn't think it was really old enough to be remade. Maybe that's just us getting older, but it didn't feel like it had been out that long. There hasn't been enough new stuff come up since then, since when it came out, to justify remaking it.
I looked into why people dislike it so much. And there are a couple of things I discovered. That one, it is a complete redo of the original story. Like, there's really nothing any different about it. And two, everybody hates the characters. So apparently they're very, I don't know, they're kind of like Gen Z type kind of characters. And fans of the, 2008 Strangers, they're older than that. That's not their generation. So those are the big chunk of people that went to watch it. And they, a lot of people cannot stand the lead female and male characters.
Yeah, that's bad because the original, you really like the lead characters. God, that's rough.
Yeah,
if they made it, if they Gen Z'd it up. Well, so imagine it probably feel pretty campy.
Well, this time they, instead of staying at like their parents' house, like one of their parents' house or whatever, after that like wedding fiasco, this time they're staying in an Airbnb. So they've already kind of changed that, which that you wouldn't think that's a very big change, but you remember it was like that guy's parents' house, like the house he grew up in. So he knew where like the gun was, and he knew everything that was there, and he knew the house layout real well. They've kind of taken that out of the story. Now they're in this Airbnb. They have obviously down there's no gun. There's no I don't know, it just kind of changes the story a little bit, and I don't know why they would go that route with the Airbnb, but
Yeah, that seems weird for a story where they're supposed to be like in the middle of nowhere too. Like they're kind of in the woods
yeah,
and an Airbnb. Wouldn't there be people there?
well, apparently they talk about how they introduced this what's supposed to be a creepy town, but it's really not. Like it really serves no purpose to the story. So yeah, they've changed that too because we never even seen a town in the original. Yeah, I mean it's just people just aren't really liking it, and it sucks because this has 2 more movies to go with those same characters, I assume. So, I mean, how I don't know how this is gonna play out.
They're gonna do Exorcist. They're gonna fire the director.
No, they have already filmed all 3 of them. They
Oh
can't.
fuck!
Yeah,
That's really bad.
can't even change the actors at this point.
Yeah, you can't even throw it away. Yeah, that's bad.
Yeah. So hopefully, chapter 2 is better. We'll see. I think it comes out this year, like later this year. Yeah, but anyway, so back on topic. Let's talk about The Hills Have Eyes.
And this movie was a lot more brutal than
Yeah.
I remember it being. I'm glad it had been so long since I'd watched it in its entirety because there was some very important parts that I couldn't necessarily remember, which made doing it a much better movie when you don't know everything that's about to happen. But yes, a lot of brutality in it.
Yeah, in case you were wondering, we are covering the unrated version, which I don't really know. I didn't look in to see what was special about the unrated version. From what I do know, they only cut out like 2 minutes. But 2 minutes, for gore is a lot. Could be a
Yeah.
lot.
Yeah, if they take 10 seconds from each kill, I mean, that doesn't add up to a lot, but that could be the difference. I mean, we've talked about it on the show before, all the Friday the 13th that were destroyed by the ratings boards. And I mean, I'm sure on those it was only like 2 minutes when you added it all up, but it's the bulk of the gore.
Yeah. All right, so let's talk about this movie. But first, if you want to stay up to date on what is going on with us or the show, talk about or submit your movie request, or just say hey, you can always find us at one of our social media accounts or our official website at Grindhouse.Horror.Pod.com, Facebook at the Grindhouse Syndicate Horror Podcast, Instagram at grindhousesyndicate.horror.pod, and many more, which you can find links for in the show notes as always. And please subscribe or follow for alerts on new episodes. And if you really love us and don't want us to be forced to live in a radioactive mine and develop weird bumps on our faces, give us a review.
Please give us a review. I do not want to live at this fucking place. This is creepy.
Hot.
Creepy enough when you get like, radioactive people in the desert, but then when you add like fake town with mannequins and shit, I'm out. I'm done. No fucking way.
Well, living in the town's better than living in the mine, because they lived in the mine for a while. They
Well,
upgraded
I
to
would
the
be
town.
taking those fucking mannequins and I'd be putting those motherfuckers in the mines.
I don't know why they
Creepy.
kept them things around. They're weird looking.
Because they're fucking creepy. And this is a complete flip from what we did last week.
Yeah.
Last week you got like dark, dingy
City. Yeah.
and now it's like really bright, dry, desolate desert.
Yeah.
Very, very different cinematography and feel.
So The Hills Have Eyes is a 2006 American horror film directed by Alex Aja and co-written by Aja and Gregory Levasseur in their English language debut. It is a remake of Wes Craven's 1977 film of the same name. The film stars Aaron Stanford, Kathleen Curran, Vanessa Shaw, Emily Del Raven, Dan Bird, Robert Joy, and Ted Levine. Ted Levine, if you don't know, played Buffalo Bill. That's kind of, I think, his claim to fame. He's been in a lot of stuff, but I think horror fans know him as Buffalo Bill.
Puts the lotion on the skin.
And
I didn't. Was thinking of Buffalo Bill quotes, but I'm pretty sure that's the only one.
Oh, no, there's a better one. Would you fuck me? I'd fuck me. Dude, speaking of that, man, like that Nicolas Cage in Longlegs is totally giving off Buffalo Bill vibes.
He does.
I can't
think
wait.
we watched the trailer together and we both had the same thought.
I can't
Definitely.
wait to see that movie. It just got the cover of the new Fangoria coming out. So, yeah, I believe it's July 12th.
Would you fuck Nicolas Cage?
If he dressed like
I'd
Buffalo
fuck
Bill. He tucked his dick between his legs.
Gotta do the old tuck. Oh, just a little tuck.
The old tuck and suck.
That's gross. It doesn't even make sense.
Oh,
the tuck and fuck.
It could be either one. Depends on what mood you're in.
You gotta wrap it around and tuck it in the cheeks.
Oh God, YouTube is gonna suppress this video. So this follows a family that is targeted by a group of cannibalistic mutants after their car breaks down in the desert. The Hills Have Eyes was released theatrically in the US and UK on March 10th of 2006. It earned $15.5 million in its opening weekend in the United States, where it was originally rated NC-17 for strong gruesome violence, but was later edited down to achieve an R rating. An unrated DVD version was released on June 20th, 2006, and a sequel, The Hills Have Eyes 2, was released in 2007. Wes Craven, director and writer of The Hills Have Eyes 1977, considered a remake after he saw the success of other horror remakes such as The Texas Chainsaw Massacre from 2003 and The Amityville Horror from 2005. The search then began for filmmakers to helm the project. Craven then came across Alexandre Aja, who previously made a French slasher film, High Tension, in 2003. After Craven and the rest of the production crew seen the film, they were hired, and Aja and Levasseur then began to write the story in what was the pair's first American production. Initially, the remake was set up at Dimension Films as part of Craven's overall deal with Miramax. It was eventually acquired by Fox Searchlight. Director Aja chose to not to film in the original filming location of Victorville, California, and instead scouted many locations for filming, including Namibia, South Africa, New Mexico, and Mexico. So one of the big reasons they didn't film in the original spot where the original was done in the Victorville, California, is because they had actually started building like these duplex housings, and you would be able to see them.
That's a big problem.
Yeah, you would be able to see them in the background. They would have to constantly go in and try to edit out these, houses, their structures that they're building.
Yeah, I've seen them talk about this a bit. So they wanted to do Morocco from the beginning because I guess their first movie that they did, they filmed it in Morocco, and the production did not want them.
Yeah,
they did not want that shit. Yeah, terrorism was one of the reasons, but they actually made them go for those different filming locations.
They had to fly all over the world,
and essentially New Mexico was the best for what they were. That's where the movie takes place. That's what the look they were looking for. But I guess the place in New Mexico that they scouted was like 2 hours from the nearest town. So they ended up talking them into doing it in Morocco. And luckily terrorists didn't kill them because apparently the production was really worried about that.
Yeah, there's an interview with the producer, and she's like, because of like terrorism. It's like, no big deal.
Sure, she was drinking a Starbucks frappe when she said that. It's such like a basic white girl rich answer. Oh, terrorism. I don't know.
Something.
Where's that at? Over there in that continent of terrorists?
So the two eventually settled on Morocco, which was known as the gateway to the Sahara. The film is set in New Mexico and strongly implies that a large number of atmospheric nuclear weapon tests were performed in that state. In fact, the only atmospheric nuclear detonation in New Mexico was the Trinity test. The first test of a nuclear device was conducted on July 16th of 1945. The United States carried out most of its atmospheric nuclear weapons tests at the Nevada test site. During the opening sequence, flashes of deformed children are shown. These children are victims of Agent Orange, infamous for its use during Vietnam War. So yeah, not radiation. It's actually something completely different. Prior to filming, Aja and Losavor had already conceived an idea for the mutants' appearance. We based all of our descriptions and directions on real documents, pictures, and footage that we found on the effects of nuclear fallout in Chernobyl and Hiroshima. The Hills Have Eyes utilized the K&B EFX group, who spent over 6 months designing the mutants, first using 3D designer tools such as ZBrush, allowing them to use a computer to generate their sculptures. After prosthetics were made, they could be fitted to the actors before the filming. K&B artist Greg Nicotero made a cameo as Sist, the mutant with the halo headgear. This is only...
Was that Greg Nicotero?
Yes, it was. This was only, 4, maybe 5 years before he ended up taking over and, doing The Walking Dead.
Yeah, I guess it was. I forget The Walking Dead came out that long ago.
Yeah, and Greg Nicotero ran the whole special effects department for that show, I'm pretty sure, until the end of it.
Yeah, it's funny they spent so much time designing these mutants and reading through stuff and how to get it as realistic as possible. One of the main mutants, the one that looks kind of like the Goonies thing.
Yeah.
So if he reminded me of something other than the Goonies, really hard, and then it hit me.
Was it Jason?
It's Jason. It was Jason from part 2. His
Yes.
first time he's ever shown on camera.
Yeah.
I literally paused it and looked at the two, and it's almost dead on. It is other than hair, because Jason had a good bit of stringy hair then before he lost it all and putting that hockey mask on and off. But yeah, they look almost exactly alike.
This is barely connected to what you just said, but it is slightly. So the actor who played that guy, he played Super Freddy in Nightmare 5.
Huh.
Yeah.
Yes, loosely connected, but I thought you were going to tell me he played Jason.
Well, you know what's funny is the
man.
reason that I know he played Super Freddy is because I was like, did he play Jason at any point in time? And I looked him up, and he did not, but he did play Freddy as Super Freddy.
Did Greg Nicotero have anything to do with the effects themselves?
What do you mean? Did he
do
on this movie?
do the makeup and stuff?
I think he helped design and everything, but the actual makeup artist was someone else, I believe. All right, so ratings. Rotten Tomato gave it a 52%. IMDb gave it a 6.4 out of 10. Letterboxd gave it a 3.1 out of 5. And the Google average audience rating is a 3.8 out of 5. If you would like to watch this movie, you can currently rent it on Amazon, Google Play, Fandango, YouTube, and Apple for $3.99. I don't think it was streaming anywhere for free. Pretty sure. I ended up having to spend the $10 for the DVD.
Yeah.
I'm glad I did.
I streamed it for free through your DVD.
No, yeah. All right, so you ready to jump into this plot?
Yep. Let's do it.
All right, so we start the movie out with some real-life info, and it says, between 1945 and 1962, the United States conducted 331 atmospheric nuclear tests. Today, the government still denies the genetic effects caused by the radioactive fallout. Big surprise, the government's like, we didn't do it.
Man, that's a lot.
That is, you would think
I
that
didn't think that there would be that many.
has a lot of effect on the Earth.
Yeah.
331 nuclear bombs.
The U.S. government doesn't give a fuck about Earth.
No.
Like, what?
They're trying to get
Earth?
Mars going right now,
Yeah.
saying take that.
So they could do their nuclear test on Mars and blow that one up too.
We then jump to the New Mexico desert where we see a few guys in radioactive protected suits and gas masks taking some samples from a small stream. We then see one scientist walk off on his own with one of those like radioactive crackly wands. I don't know what it's called.
Called a crackly wand.
Crackly
actually,
wand.
that's what they're called.
The official term for him. When he suddenly gets startled by a bloody, beaten man begging for help. As the scientist walks towards him, he gets a pickaxe right into the back of his head. We then jump back to the rest of the team where we see a very large figure walk up behind them and one by one impale them with the pickaxe and tossing their bodies against the rocks. So we have a very brutal opening scene.
I fucking love when movies give us these openings.
This
just it sets the stage. When you get like a brutal opening like this, it locks you in. Like you know right away it's going to be a pretty brutal movie.
This reminded me of I don't remember which one it was, the Halloween where Michael kills all the firemen.
Yeah.
That's exactly what I got.
That was literally the best part of that trilogy, I think, was
Yeah.
the fireman kills.
Goes downhill from there.
Yeah, it gets pretty rough. At least part 3.
Is that the one where the town shows up with like every random thing in their house to beat Michael to death with?
Yeah.
Like a lady there with an iron.
Yeah, that was
That's the same
part
one.
2 or the second remake. I think that takes place in the very beginning too. I'm pretty sure that's like an opening scene. He's coming out of the house that was actually a remake of the house they used in Charleston. But yeah, definitely downhill from there. You know what really went downhill was Michael's health after that. He really
It was a hit to the
really
from
bit the dust.
That iron, or it was like an iron or iron board or something. They brought some just like random shit from their house.
People with like their chain wallets that they've had stashed since 1998.
So we then see the science team's truck pull off with all 4 of the victims' bodies chained to the bumper as the screen fades to black. We then get this cool intro with some old country music playing to the scenes of nuclear explosions, life in the 1950s, and deformed human bodies. This very much gives off the Dawn of the Dead intro vibes, which we just recently covered another movie who had like an intro like this, and it also played a Johnny Cash song from the same album. But I don't remember which movie that was that we did.
I don't know, I'd have to look through them.
But yeah, it seemed like around this time, all of these remakes had these really cool intros where it's got like the country song playing, and then there's like real life scenes, like flashes of like pictures or like, just pandemonium happening. It was
I want to say 28 Days Later had some real footage in it in its intro scene.
I would have to look and see what movies
I don't remember country music though.
This was just like a couple weeks ago.
I don't know. I'm pretty sure though that this is real test footage that they have playing in the beginning of this.
Yeah, it is. Yeah. And also that's what I was talking about earlier. The pictures are actually from Agent Orange.
Now that I didn't know. So they showed a couple of those in that documentary, and I thought for sure that they had CGI'd the faces, like just photoshopped the faces for the pictures.
No, I actually had a list earlier of every mutant in this movie, what real life disease they had. Because how they're deformed is not because necessarily the radioactive stuff, deformed them. It causes their body to create all of these actual diseases, and they all have different ones based off of like real life deformities that people get. Yeah, it's interesting.
You have a list of that?
I found a list. I can pull it up.
So what was the movie, The Crazies?
Yeah, probably.
Yeah, I think it was The Crazies.
Yeah, that sounds right. So next we see an old rundown gas station on the side of a desolate desert road. We see it is run by an old dirty guy who also seems to be living in the back of the business. He gets woken up by some noises and comes out with his shotgun. As he begins to search the property for the intruder, he shouts the name Ruby, but gets no response. The camera then pans over to a torn down fence with a sign that says, "No trespassing, United States Government Department of Energy."
Man, they really, really, really put some time in that razor wire on that fence to keep people out. That's the worst razor wired fence I've ever seen in my life.
So, you've seen the little making of, and did you get to the part about the animals?
No.
Okay, so they spent a ridiculous amount of time trying to get that scorpion to run perfectly across that rock and for this fence scene. And I said, that sucks because I didn't even notice the scorpion.
I did notice the
I watched it
scorpion,
twice
actually.
and didn't see it.
No, I did. I noticed the scorpion, but I feel like that's something that they could get away with CGIing now, and you wouldn't even notice it because it's such a small thing. But I did notice the scorpion because I actually looked for like a deformity to see if they were going to give like an early sign of something being fucked up, deformed.
Yeah, I will say that a lot of credit I give this movie is they did what I think everyone should do is they did practical with CGI helping. And
Yeah.
that is what CGI should be used for.
Yeah, where it's not so obvious. I think there's only one spot in this movie where it's really obvious CGI. Yeah, I agree. They should use it to touch up practical effects.
Yeah. So as the old man returns to the gas station, he finds a big black bag sitting on the front door. A look of concern appears on his face as he turns around and yells, "I told you it's over." And he already told them that he is out. He's done. He wants out the game. He then says to himself that he can't do this anymore. So it is becoming more obvious that he has been assisting these people that live in this like condemned mine area with something that is probably pretty bad. He then goes inside for a moment before changing his mind and sliding the bag inside. Back in the back room, we see him begin to go through the bag, and inside we see a very 2006 camcorder. You know, the cool one where it had the screen that like flipped off the side and all that shit.
Yes, Mom had one.
Yeah.
I remember.
Yeah. He also finds some women's jewelry, some cash, and a styrofoam container that you would put leftovers in.
Don't forget about one of the last remaining chain wallets. He pulled out of there.
Oh, I didn't even notice he had chain wallet.
Yeah. Total chain wallet.
So inside of this styrofoam container is a severed, bloody human ear. And he doesn't really seem all that surprised about getting the ear.
Yeah.
His reaction is like, meh, I don't know why they sent this.
Well, I think the ear had earrings in it. Some type of earrings, but it's like, damn, if he's like sending people or something, didn't really know that at this part in the movie, but you couldn't take the time to rip the fucking earring out. You had to cut the whole ear off and send it to him.
I don't even know why they gave him the ear. Is it like a threat?
I think it had an earring in it. I think they're like paying him off and stuff.
Yeah, but who buys one earring? Well, I guess there are people that wear one earring. So.
That's the thing. It looked like, I don't know, I'd have to go back and watch it, but I'm pretty sure that it was like not just your normal earring piercing, it was piercings at the top. I'm not sure what they're called, but I'm pretty sure there was two. And there's not no diamonds or anything. It's just a loop that goes in. Probably worth nothing.
So as he begins to go through the former owner's wallet, he is startled by a car horn beeping from out front. So we are now going to meet our main characters of this story, who we can only assume are going to die violently one by one. We have the leader of this suburban middle-class American family, Big Bob Carter, who is a tough, take-no-shit retired detective. Then his caring, loving wife, Ethel Carter. We then have their children, teenage son Bobby, teenage daughter Brenda, and adult daughter Lynn, Lynn's husband Doug, and their baby Catherine. And if you thought, hey, we don't have enough people in this caravan, we also have the family's 2 German shepherds, Beauty and Beast. So we got a fucking full house here.
Definitely a full house. Not enough room in this camper for all these people.
Yeah, in order to transport this whole clan here, Big Bob is driving his 90s SUV that is towing an older but in pretty good shape camper. He's got the old Airstream, that aluminum. It's like a pill. He blew like a big pill capsule up and it was aluminum.
Looks like something they would put out in a nuclear desert test.
Yeah.
It's old.
So let's go over a little bit of this family dynamic here. So we learn that Big Bob is one of those, like, he's always right. He always needs to be in control. He's kind of the old school man's man. Doug is kind of the opposite, which causes some friction between Bob and Doug.
In Doug's defense, I'm pretty sure no matter who he was, there would be friction. As somebody who has a father-in-law who is an ex-cop and is very much this guy.
I thought about that.
It doesn't matter what you do. Doug's in a bad situation.
Yeah, you can tell that Bob thinks Lynn could do better than Doug. I think that he would probably be okay if, like, she married a cop. Like,
well, I was in the army, and
but you weren't a cop.
Yeah, but you got to be a cop.
You didn't bleed blue.
I feel like if I was a cop, you'd be like, cops these days. They'll let you get away with anything.
We also have the teenagers. Bobby very much idolizes his dad, Bob. So he has some of the same character flaws I think that Bob has. And he and his sister Brenda seem to have a very kind of love-hate relationship. You can see Lynn is constantly trying to bridge the gap between Doug and her dad, and her mother Ethel seems to be pretty much on good terms with everyone. So we see while the group is gassing up and stretching their legs, a person out of view sneaks up and steals Bobby's red hoodie. Doug announces to everyone that there isn't any cell reception out here, and Bob informs the gas station man that they are headed to California. While they are still filling up, one of their dogs escapes from their camper and runs inside the gas station. Lynn goes after her and finds the dog in the back room, where she discovers the big black bag from earlier. She takes a peek in it, which, in my opinion, is kind of rude.
Yes, I agree.
Yeah, that's weird. You don't go into somebody's home and just start looking through shit. But she then grabs the dog, but when she turns around, she finds the gas station man standing behind her. As Lynn explains, the dog got out and leaves to go join her family. The gas station man realizes she saw the bag and decides to go tell Big Bob about a shortcut that they would be able to take. It's not on the map, but it'll save a few hours off their trip. Never, ever, ever take the fucking shortcut.
Yeah, especially not here. Like, you're in the middle of fucking nowhere. No cell reception. You don't take shortcuts that aren't on the map. You just don't do it.
Vacancy.
Yeah.
Took a shortcut, ended up at a death motel.
Yep. And probably 50 other horror movies.
Yeah. Yeah, we've covered that many times.
Yeah, and this is why you don't go snooping through people's shit. Because he was done.
Yeah, he was out. He's out the game.
He's done. He'd done his last deal.
One big mission to end it all. So next we see Bob and gang driving down this shortcut, which is just a small dirt road in the absolute middle of nowhere. Pretty much just driving through a bunch of desert mountains. And while they are just cruising along, we see some kind of spike strip slid out across the road, which instantly blows all of Bob's tires, causing him to lose control and crash head on into a boulder. Big Bob meet Big Boulder.
Pretty sure it's Ethel who gets out and it's like, the heat caused the blowout. Like, that's such a good theory. The heat caused all 8 tires to blow at one time.
So
I don't get why these people aren't more concerned with the fact that all their tires are busted.
Yeah, especially, I mean, I could see like the wife and maybe the teenagers or whatever, but the guy who was a cop, Big Bob, like should be like, there's something up here.
Yeah, I would be very concerned if all of my tires were busted at once. Like, that doesn't just happen.
Yeah, interesting thing about this wreck is, for one, the boulder that they wrecked into is actually a boulder that the production made. It is a big, big concrete boulder that they pretty much formed and then painted, and they needed to make the boulder because it had to be able to withstand the actual truck and trailer to smash into it at 15 to 20 miles an hour. I guess a regular rock would probably break somehow.
Well, I've seen that, and I thought a regular rock would be tougher than concrete.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't
But
know
I
a lot
I
about
don't
concrete.
I guess they didn't wanna well, they only had one shot at this,
Yeah, they only had one truck.
so I guess they didn't wanna take the risk of
That's wild.
the rock not being strong enough. And they're in Morocco, so getting another one of these trucks is probably not the easiest thing.
Yeah, I seen they talked about it took 3 days because they had to get it like perfect because they only had the one truck. I was like, damn.
Yeah, they had to have an actual stunt driver drive this into that rock too, because they were worried about, they needed to hit it in the exact right spot to get the truck where they needed it for filming, and some poor stunt driver had to drive into this rock. Well, let's say poor. He was doing his job. He's probably
They
stoked.
probably loved it.
You know, the stunt guys, they're like totally down to get paid to drive into a fucking rock or
Oh, yeah.
backflip off of a truck, off of a dock, almost get a truck landed on me,
Jump out of a 4-story building on fire.
and then
I fucking love those dudes, man.
blow up a whole entire truck.
So as the whole family jumps out to check on each other, the two dogs run off into the desert with Bobby chasing behind them. Doug attempts to use his phone, but of course, has no signal. And Bob discovers the truck's axle is broken. Doug asks what they are going to do, and Bob decides that the only way to get help is for him and Doug to walk and find someone to assist them. Bob will go one way down the road, and Doug will go the other. As Bob is preparing to leave, he pulls out a giant revolver to take and hands Bobby a pistol in case he needs to keep the family safe while he is gone. Bobby's dumbass should not be in charge of a fucking gun.
No, and for Big Bob to let your son point a fucking loaded gun at somebody, despite how much you don't like them, being with your daughter, is fucking awful gun safety.
Especially in the middle of nowhere, you now have no vehicle, you have no cell service, so if somebody does get shot, they're fucked.
Big Bob's probably like, please let that gun go off. I don't have to take the heat for it. Just an accident. He's just a kid. They can't lock him up that long.
So after the family gathers to say a prayer, we see Bob set off back towards the gas station and Doug in the opposite direction. And as the camera zooms back in, we realize that someone is watching them from the top of the mountain. So a little later on, we see the family has set up the camper. They are all sitting around the table talking when suddenly one of the dogs won't stop barking. Brenda then gets up to get something out of the camper, opens the door, and the dog goes running off into the desert. That is one problem this family has continuously, is they cannot keep their fucking dogs put up.
No.
There's a dog that runs off 5 different times in this movie.
Yeah, you would think that they would know these dogs well enough to not open up the door when they're freaking the fuck out.
So Bobby then chases after the dog, which leads him out of eyesight of the rest of the family and into a rocky mountainous area.
This is not a place you want to lose your dog at either.
No.
This would be awful.
So what was that fucking thing that Bobby has attached to his pants? What was that?
I don't know.
I could not
I didn't
figure
see
that
anything
out.
attached to his pants.
Yeah, he's got this big tan thing connected to his pants that the whole entire movie, that thing just flops around on the side of his leg. It almost goes down to his fucking knee.
I must have not done my job very well.
Drove me nuts.
If I didn't see.
Drove me nuts.
I didn't see this at all.
I have
the entire movie.
Like at first I thought it was like a rag.
Maybe it was something that was like they were trying to make cool in 2006.
I don't know. I that thing drove me nuts, whatever the fuck it was. So Bobby then hears the dog yelp in pain in the distance, and he starts to frantically search for her when he notices someone following him. By the way, this person is also wearing his red hoodie from earlier. Bobby then comes around a corner to find the dog's dead body laying there with blood running from it. He slowly walks over and checks the dog's body, only to discover that the dog has been butchered down the middle and had its internal parts removed.
Man, I'd fucking throw up if I found my dog like this.
That's awful. He gets really freaked out and attempts to run back to the camper, but he trips up and falls down a small cliff, landing on his back and knocking himself out cold. While his unconscious body lays there, we see the person wearing the red hoodie walk over to him and place their hand on his shoulder. The important thing with the hand here is that we see that the skin is really red and patchy, and some of the fingers are fused together.
Man, what is with horror movies and dogs dying? Like, I don't think I ever noticed how frequent that was. I mean, how many movies have we covered where the damn dog
Many.
has to die?
Many.
Somebody make a cat die or something.
Well, they did in Pet Cemetery.
Not that I dislike cats or anything. We have a cat, but
She's a
come
bitch.
on, dogs are great, man. Nobody wants to see a dog die.
I think it's because it's an emotional reaction that you get out of people. I think that's the reason why.
Yeah. Well, I don't like the dogs. I don't like the dogs dying.
Me neither. It is then revealed that this mysterious person is a little girl who has some physical deformities all over her body. The girl then hears something above them and looks up to find another mutated, dirty person eating the raw flesh from the dog's leg.
Who may have been a mutated leprechaun. That is the fucking hat straight from Leprechaun.
We then jump on over to Doug, who is walking in the middle of nowhere when he suddenly walks up on a gigantic crater we assume is from a nuclear blast. And inside this crater, he sees a bunch of abandoned cars, so he decides to go down there and check it out. So, as two people who have done exploring in the mountains in the middle of nowhere, I can confidently say that if I came upon this scene, not worth my time. It would take you hours to climb down there, and hours and a massive amount of energy to climb back up.
Yeah, I would be super fucking freaked out
wouldn't
that I
go down
found
there.
all these fucking cars. The only way I would go down there is if it was one tire that was blown and I knew the tire size and I went down there to look for something that had the same tire that we could put on to get us the fuck out of there. But yeah, too much work. But there's some dusty ass bears and fishing poles and stuff down there he's got to get.
Yeah, I mean, you remember like how long and how much energy it took you when you climbed up like that little mountain area to go in that little like cave thing or something that you seen?
Oh, that wasn't little. That was
Compared to this, it was.
Yeah, but that was a lot of straight climbing up too.
Yeah.
I almost lost my shotgun. That was awful. It didn't look as far,
Yeah,
really far
it
away.
never does.
But when I started going up, I mean, what did
No.
I get? Maybe halfway, and I was like, okay, fuck this cave thing. It's not worth it.
Yeah, if you're in the middle of nowhere, you're lost, you need help, you just walked miles in like 5-degree weather, you would not spend the time and energy to climb down there. And then, especially you're limited on water. He has like one bottle of water to climb back up. Yeah, it's not worth it.
Yeah, you would think he would have figured that out when he started, because going down sucks too.
Oh,
Takes
yeah.
a lot of energy going down. I'm still offended you called that Mount Little. That was a big mountain.
But thanks to movie magic, the next scene he has already made it down and has begun looking at the car. Because we are seeing cars from different eras over the years, we can assume that this group of disfigured people that live in this abandoned bombing area have been doing this for a long time. This is where they have been storing their victims' cars once they are dead.
But why does he get this dirty ass teddy bear?
I don't know why he gets any of the stuff.
Yeah, well, yeah, I agree. We don't know that yet until he gets back. But yeah, takes that. Like, there's no way I would give that to my baby.
Especially, like, thinking back now, it's like belonged to somebody who was brutally murdered.
Yeah. Oh, obviously, Doug is fucking clueless and doesn't think that. He just thinks all these cars must have just got dumped here for some reason. Know what happened to all these cars in the middle of nowhere, and they all have all flat tires.
Yeah. So next we head on over to Big Bob, and we see that it is now nighttime and Bob has finally made it back to the gas station. He starts yelling for the old guy who runs it, but gets no answer at first. He walks inside as he continues his search and ends up going into the back room where he finds the big black bag. He starts looking through it, where at first he finds the handful of jewelry. He then picks up the styrofoam box and discovers the severed bloody ear. This immediately startles Bob and he pulls out his dirty, hairy, chrome-plated revolver. And now Bob is in cop mode. Because being a cop is not just a job, it's in his blood.
A cop for life.
I feel like we say that about so many cops in movies.
They're like Marines, man.
Yeah, man. It's like,
they're all about that shit.
I may be retired, but I'm still a cop. It's in my DNA.
Yeah, well, I'm not the biggest fan of Big Bob, but I would have immediately grabbed my gun too if I found that.
Oh, for sure.
Like, that would have freaked me the fuck out.
Oh, yeah. I mean, you find a body part in a styrofoam food container.
And you're walking in the middle of the fucking
Oh,
night
yeah.
in the desert by yourself. And this is why splitting up was an awful idea.
Yeah.
They should have stayed together. I would have been pissed if I was Doug. I'd been like, look, you decided to take a shortcut, wrecked us, and now you're making me walk in the direction that we don't know what's in front of us. And it's obviously going to get dark before I get back. Like, no, fuck that. Not doing that.
So as he continues his search, he finds a wall with a bunch of newspaper articles tacked to it. And these articles are meant to tell us basically the backstory of what is going on here. So a brief history lesson is the government needs to test these new weapons that they are developing and decide the perfect place to do it is the New Mexico desert. Unfortunately, though, there is already a whole town of people living there who work in the mines. The miners refuse to leave their land, and even though the government has taken it and kicked them out, eventually the military is called in to evict them, and the miners then retreat to living in the mines. Once the people have been removed from the town itself, the government destroys all of the homes and buildings. We then start to see pictures of the families who stayed by hiding in the mines, and because of the radioactive fallout from the bombs, they have developed deformities. The military then stops testing and closes down the area.
There's also newspaper articles of people that have gone missing.
Yep.
So there's a whole thing with Big Bob looking at these, and it's almost like light bulbs going off.
Oh, yeah,
like
he knows exactly what's going on.
Well, I don't know, because you would think the light bulbs are going off, and his reaction is, what a weird guy, and turns around. Like, what a weird guy. What? Like, you didn't get more out of that than this is a weird guy? I would have immediately felined it to that guy's car, tried to steal. He's a cop. I'm sure he's hotwired some cars.
Teach that in cop school.
Yeah. And I would have stole this guy's car one way or another, and I would have fucking hauled ass back to my family.
So we also see some random families have been going missing after driving through the area. The authorities are baffled by these sudden disappearances, and the area is nicknamed the New Bermuda Triangle. I fucked that all up. The article did also say that this has been going on for the last 4 decades. So it's been a minute.
It's been a while.
Big Bob goes into panic mode and starts looking for a way out of there. He finds a car out front, and of course, the keys are in the visor. I don't know why that's a thing in movies because I've never seen anybody ever store their fucking keys in the visor.
Nope. Nope. I remember 2006, and that was not a thing.
The lights cut on, but the car refuses to start. Bob then hears the gas station man yelling from inside the outhouse. Bob goes to confront the man and finds him inside crying with a bottle of alcohol and a shotgun. The man then says that he did the best he could and that he was sorry. He then puts the shotgun to the bottom of his chin and pulls the trigger. And we see him blow his whole goddamn face off, and it looks awesome.
It did look fucking great.
Yeah, we also see the aftermath where pretty much just his chin is intact and the rest of his head looks like a exploded watermelon. Like it's amazing.
It
Great
looks,
job.
It looks legit.
Yeah.
I mentioned the picture, the old Rotten.com picture of the shotgun to the head in the Maniac episode, and they did a great job. But if you had to pick the Maniac shotgun to the head,
that's
or
always,
this
yeah.
shotgun to the head, Maniac,
Yeah.
Tom Savini, hard to top Tom Savini, but I do think that this is one of the most awesome kills in the entire movie.
Yeah, I rewound it and slowed it down and watched it, and it looks good because I mean I know how they did it. Where they made a head and they blew it up or whatever, and then they also did some CGI with it, and it was seamless. It looked fantastic.
Yeah, I noticed in the little documentary that comes with it. That's when I noticed the CGI, because they had actually froze it at a certain point. But watching it for the first time, you can't tell.
Oh, it looked great.
You can't tell there's CGI. And that's what we were talking about, using CGI to kind of upgrade the practical effects as opposed to completely replacing them.
So Bob then hears someone from behind say, "Daddy." He quickly spins around and fires 2 shots. He then hears it again from a different direction and fires more shots.
This guy's an awful cop.
Wasting his bullets, too. He didn't even see anybody.
He was an awful cop. Let me say that. He's just wasted. He has a revolver, so he's just wasted 4 out of his 6 bullets on nothing.
Yeah, I understand the firing 1 shot to let whoever know, like, hey, I got this gun. It fucking works, and it's got bullets in it. But not any more than that.
Yeah. This would be terrifying, though. This guy
yeah.
killing himself, and you think you're by yourself, and then you start hearing "Daddy."
Yeah, that's
like,
creepy.
It's the creepiest thing you could probably hear, too. Yeah, this would have been a terrifying scene. However, I would not have shot 4 of my bullets out.
I think I mentioned it to you because I did my first watch first. And then I think I mentioned it to you that I get a little bit of the end to House of a Thousand Corpses. I get a little bit of that vibe from this movie.
I don't think you did mention the House of a Thousand Corpses.
Thought I did.
Yeah, I could see that.
Yeah, it's very much this like really weird, deformed kind of group of people that are basically killing people in these terrible ways and eating them and all kinds of weird shit. And it's going on. It's like they're killing a ton of people. Like in both movies that happens. All these people keep disappearing in this area. And then you see how they're dying. And you're like, holy shit. It has very much kind of similar vibes. It's like the Daylight version of that.
It's a much different feeling though with the antagonists, because in House of a Thousand Corpses, they have a lot of character. Like you actually root for the bad guys.
I'm not talking about the people.
Well,
I'm talking about underground.
Yeah, I know. I'm just saying it's where it's much different is where you root for a lot of the antagonists, and I think it's horror fans, at least I do. I think a lot of us do. We root for the bad guys secretly, quietly, a lot
Most
of
of the time.
And this is one of those movies that they did such a good job. You do not root for the bad guys. Like, they are awful.
Yeah, like the big guy in the tunnel with the axe, like the big red guy, kind of like You have a similar version in this movie where you have Pluto, like the big deformed face guy, huge guy. He runs around also a big axe.
And the guy that you're referencing from House of a Thousand Corpses is very much of a bullet, or not bullet.
He's a bullet?
My Bloody Valentine.
Oh,
I was
yeah,
to say
yeah.
bullet for my
Yeah.
My Bloody Valentine. I kind of took that. So that's some horror projecting horror.
So Big Bob then runs to get into the car where I was like, dude, you didn't check the fucking backseat. And of course, there's a man back there who then begins repeatedly slamming Bob's head into the steering wheel and the windows.
Bob will pay for that mistake.
Yes, he will. Once Bob is bloody and dazed, he is pulled from the car and loaded onto a cart where he is then rolled into the dark pit of the former mine shaft. Back at the camper, we see that Brenda has just found Bobby, and it is now nighttime and Bobby is worried that his dad hasn't returned yet. He decides not to tell everyone about the dog he found that was mutilated.
This is really significant that you learn that I think it's Ruby. Is that her name, Ruby?
Yeah,
You,
the red sweatshirt.
yeah, you learned that Ruby lets him live. Like,
Yeah.
so you realize that not all of these deformed people are bad guys. They're not all fucked up. At least at this point in the movie, you can at least see that at least one of them has some type of compassion.
So while cleaning Bobby's wounds, they hear the other dog, Beast, who is chained up outside, begin to bark. Bobby jumps up and grabs the pistol and heads outside to investigate. He finds that Beast has gotten free of the chain and is barking somewhere out in the distance. He then gets a scare when a hand is placed on his shoulder by Doug, who has just returned. Lynn's happy to see her husband return. He then begins to show her all of this like random shit he brought back from the abandoned cars, telling her about the crater and how the road isn't a shortcut like the guy said, that it ends at the crater he found. So a short time later, everyone decides that they aren't going to wait for Bob to return and announce they are going to bed. Bobby argues this and tries to at least get everyone to sleep inside of the camper. Doug claims the camper is too small for all of them and tells Bobby that he and Lynn are going to sleep in the wrecked SUV. Fast forward a few hours later, and while everyone else is asleep, Bobby is sitting up waiting on his dad. He then checks his watch to see it is almost midnight when he suddenly hears the dog barking close by. He once again walks out to investigate, and while he is doing that, we see the light has flipped on inside the camper as someone stands over a sleeping Brenda. We then see the blanket is pulled back, revealing Brenda's bare legs, and then we get a close-up shot of the guy who is doing this.
Jason Voorhees.
Pretty much. He is a very deformed man with a bulging face that is missing most of his teeth. That is a description of also Jason.
Yes, that's very much.
When I wrote that,
early Jason.
I did not think about Jason, but that fits every version of him. He then touches Brenda's hair, which wakes her up, and as she goes to scream, he puts his hand over her mouth. Bobby wakes Lynn and Doug up in the SUV to tell them that he thinks someone is lurking around the camper. Doug gets up to help Bobby look, and right before they walk into the camper door, the man who is holding Brenda down holds up a walkie-talkie and yells, "Now." And we then see a big flame ignite and get Doug and Bobby's attention. We then get a close-up to show it is Big Bob tied to a tree while burning alive. He then wakes Ethel up and she heads out. This wakes Ethel up and she heads outside, somehow totally not noticing that her daughter is being held down by this really big dirty dude.
Yeah, this whole situation is everybody just making bad fucking choices. Doug deciding that him and Lynn were gonna sleep outside. He's like, this is a camper that sleeps 3 and there's 6 of us, and it's kind of weird. I'm like, what?
Well,
Why in this situation would you want to split up? Especially to sleep in a back of a truck. in the middle of nowhere.
A back of a wrecked
And then
truck.
they leave their baby with the younger sister who's got headphones in.
Yeah.
Like she's in the back room supposed to be watching over the baby and puts headphones in. Like that's anybody who's ever had a baby knows that that's an awful idea. And yeah, it just goes downhill from here.
So Bobby, Doug, and Ethel then immediately run over to the fire where they discover it is Big Bob. And as Doug runs off with the fire extinguisher, which he also goes in the camper, totally doesn't notice this big ass dude in there holding her down. Another dirty, gross dude enters the camper, pulling the door shut behind him. Once inside, we see that this dude also has a deformed face, is very gross looking, and he has Bob's dirty, hairy gun. As he is going wild eating and drinking all of their food, he discovers a pet bird in a cage. He opens the cage, grabs the bird with one hand, and then viciously bites the bird's head off, spits it on the ground, and pours the bird's blood onto his tongue.
Ozzy would be proud.
I thought that the shot of him drinking the blood is like a Gatorade commercial. Where they're like just so thirsty and they're like cracking the Gatorade and just like slamming it. And that's what he's doing to
It's
this
like I
fucking
haven't-
bird.
I haven't had parrot blood in so long. Such a delicacy.
Also, so we'll clear this up now so it's not confusing. The big guy who is holding Brenda down, like the one who originally comes in the camper, his name is Pluto. And the bird murderer, his name is Lizard. So while Pluto is still holding Brenda down on the bed, a now refreshed Lizard walks over and violently pulls Pluto off of the bed and pistol whips him. This causes Pluto to get up and start like destroying the inside of the camper, like out of rage. Lizard then walks on over to Brenda and, well, you can probably guess what happens next. It's gross, it's brutal. We won't describe it much more than that.
God, this scene is rough.
I
That's
think
a
it's
rough watch.
the most disturbing part in the whole movie.
Yeah, it's one of those things that they use to really, really make you hate these characters.
Oh yeah.
And I mean, they do a good job because I've mentioned before, when a movie can make you feel real emotion, it's doing a good job. And that's kind of what horror movies are supposed to make you feel unsettled and uneasy. But man, it was a tough watch.
Yeah, this is in my opinion the roughest scene in this movie. So Doug finally gets most of the fire put out with the extinguisher, but it is too late. Bob is now finger looking good, extra crispy. Ethel and Lynn then turn around to hear Brenda screaming from the camper. Lynn runs first to see what is going on, and as she walks in, Lizard is holding her baby as Pluto holds Brenda on the bed. Lizard tells Lynn that the baby is big, fat, and juicy. And she then hits him in the face with a fucking frying pan. I don't blame her.
I would have not stopped beating him with a fucking frying pan if he had my baby.
Oh, yeah. She goes to hit him a second time when he grabs her hand and points the gun right at the baby. This causes Lynn to kind of give up, and Lizard then begins caressing her hair and face, even licking her before ripping her shirt open. So, a funny thing about this gun pointed at the baby scene, for one, they used the actual gun.
And an actual baby?
And an actual baby.
Oh,
yeah.
God.
Yeah, the director actually talked about how they were really freaked out that the only gun they had was like the actual gun. But he was like, well, the baby's mom was there and she was really cool about it. And she kept checking the gun to make sure it was empty before every scene. But they said that the problem with shooting this scene was the baby wouldn't quit trying to play with the gun.
That sounds about right.
The baby doesn't know what a gun does. To the baby, it was just some big, like, shiny toy. So the baby kept grabbing the barrel of the gun, and they were just like, "Oh God, we got to get this baby to quit
that
playing with
fucks the
it."
whole scene
Yeah,
up
it
too.
does. It's cute.
It's cute, and it's like, oh fuck, no, baby's not supposed to touch a gun.
Yeah. So we then get a shot of Lizard sucking the milk from Lynn's titty.
Yes. As if he didn't get enough perverted shit already. He is going to drink that beautiful, nutritious, healthy breast milk straight from the tap.
Yeah, these people are so fucking unhinged, man. So as this is going on, Ethel walks into the camper and can't believe what she is seeing.
It's like, you're cheating on Doug? How could you do that?
And Brenda, when did you get a new boyfriend? She raises a rock above her head to hit Lizard with when he suddenly lifts the gun and shoots her in the stomach.
Damn, Ethel should have prayed harder.
Yeah. She goes fucking flying like 3 feet, 4 feet back.
That prayer circle didn't do enough.
Yeah, Bob kind of foreshadows a little bit because he says, I'll take my bullets over your prayers any day.
Yeah.
Well, there you go.
His bullets didn't do anything either.
Didn't do him anything, but
yeah.
did other people. So Bobby and Doug both hear this and begin to run towards the camper. Lynn picks up a screwdriver and stabs Lizard in the leg, causing him to shoot her point blank in the head. Pluto runs off holding the baby as Lizard attempts to take Brenda. He sees Bobby and Doug running towards him and tries to shoot Brenda in front of them, but the gun is out of bullets. He then leans down and tells her that he will be coming back for her. He then runs off and follows Pluto into the darkness of the night, and Bobby attempts to shoot them but misses every shot.
I do like that they actually counted the bullets for the revolver. It's actual 6 shots that were used.
Yeah, I actually thought about it, and if Big Bob wouldn't have wasted all them bullets, Brendan would be dead.
Yeah, that's true. But if Big Bob would have checked that back seat, he would have had a car with the dead one of these fuckers.
It could have changed the whole...
Could have changed everything.
So Doug walks inside the camper to find Ethel dying on the couch and his wife Lynn laying on the floor with a pool of blood around her. We then see the deformed man from earlier who was eating the dog's leg. He is posted up on top of a mountain watching with binoculars. He starts to hear a noise behind him. He looks but he sees nothing. He then starts to look through the binoculars again when he is suddenly attacked and killed by the other dog, Beast.
And good for the fucking dog. The only one that's done anything right so far.
Oh, I'm gonna go ahead and put this out there. I think Beast is the MVP of this movie.
I literally had that very thing written later on in the movie in my notes. The exact thing.
So Doug tends to Ethel as she lays dying. Bobby is freaking out and Brenda is in shock over in the corner. They then suddenly hear the crack and static of a radio outside the door. Bobby fires 4 rounds before opening the door and looking.
He gets that from his dad.
Yeah, apparently.
Shoot first, ask questions later.
Doug steps outside to find the dog. Beast has brought the dead man's arm to camp with the radio still attached. Doug picks up the radio and asks why they are doing this and demands his baby back.
This was a bad call.
Yeah,
man.
You should have kept that.
They didn't know that they had a radio, and they can hear all their plans through the radio, and you literally gave up your element of surprise.
Yep.
The one key to the back door you had, you fucking gave it up.
So they don't answer him, but they do let the baby cry into the speaker. Doug then pretty much says, fuck this, he's going to go after him.
I see, because, before this, Doug and Bobby get in this fight. Bobby wants to go after him with the gun, and Doug is like, no, we need to have a plan. You would think this was the other way around with them having Doug's baby. I don't know if I would not be able to take the gun and go after them. But yeah, they both have really good points. It's really hard to pick which side's probably the better one. They do need to think this out instead of just running in there and shooting. But at the same time, how do you not run in there and start shooting after, half your family was just murdered and they took this baby?
I personally, I was thinking about it, and I would have, how Bobby shoots the rounds at him as they're running off? I would have pursued them immediately. Yeah. I have a gun. They're out of bullets. they're running. I would have at least killed one of them.
Yeah,
I think.
we kind of skipped over that part a little bit, but I also had that noted down that I wouldn't have stopped because, especially considering they just killed his dad and his
Oh, yeah.
mom and took this baby. Yeah, I would have, because you got to think, if they get away, you don't know if you're ever going to see them
Yep,
again.
that's your best chance to get the baby back is
Yep.
right then.
I wouldn't have stopped, and I would not have wasted all those bullets trying to hit them from fucking 100 yards away while they're running in the dark with a pistol. I would have, and he's young. Like, he's young. I'm sure he's in better shape as far as running. And when that lizard was just stabbed in the fucking leg,
Yeah.
I think he could have caught him.
So the next morning, we see Doug with a bat, letting Beast lead him to the Hill People's camp by following the blood trail left by Lizard. And after a trip through the mine tunnels, Doug then pops out on top of a mountain, overlooking one of those like fake government towns, the ones they build to, I guess, see what the bomb does, like how it destroys stuff.
Yeah, this would have freaked me out, man. They did this town really good. It's really unsettling. I think anytime you get these like nuclear blast towns that they built back in the day, they're always creepy because it's like a functioning town with a bunch of mannequins. But this, I mean, even more so in this movie, because they're all like blown up and shit. And considering the circumstances, the only thing that could have got me to go into that town was knowing that my baby might be in there. Because if there wasn't a baby involved, I'd be like, nope, we're going.
So, some interesting things about the town. So, that initial shot where he comes out of the mine and he is standing on that mountain and he's overlooking, he can see the town down there. The town, that's actually, they did like that old school trick where they did the matte painting. A lot of movies,
Did the
like,
old Western?
yeah, like I know like Star Wars did it a lot back then. A lot of those shots of planets and space and all that are all just matte paintings. So they did that. And then the town, they actually only built like that one street of buildings, and then all the other buildings were digitally added in. So they actually did go in and build. It was probably like 8 different little buildings there, and then the rest were just kind of added in.
That's another good use of
Yeah.
CGI.
No need to build all of them. You're not going to go into all of them. So back at the camper, we see Brenda and Bobby setting some tires on fire to try to like alert someone that they need help, and also setting up a trip line to alert them if anyone comes close. We then see Doug enter the town where he finds those creepy as fuck 1950 mannequins pretty much everywhere. He also sees a sign that says Test Village 3B Military Area. He then finds a house with a generator running next to it. He peeks inside the window to see his baby laying on a bed. He then gets startled by a tall, severely deformed man that has his head held in place by a metal device. His skin is very red, blotchy, and has boils all over his face and scalp. This is the guy who is played by Greg Nicotero.
I did not notice that was Greg Nicotero.
Yeah, you can't tell. Like, I've even
He looks
paused it.
fucking really
Can't
good.
tell.
Like, he's super creepy looking. Super creepy, but also at the same time, his head's kind of locked into place. He's got a shotgun. Probably taking my chances of trying to beat this guy's head in and take this shotgun.
So anyway, this guy like walks right past him and he like doesn't see Doug kind of peering through the window.
'Cause he can't turn his neck.
I assume he can't turn his fucking head. Doug also sees that he is dragging some dead bodies and carrying a shotgun. After the man passes, Doug hides Beast into an old broken down car and then sneaks into the back of the house.
Why would you put the damn dog in the car?
I guess he didn't want the dog to bark and like give his position away. Because, so one thing, Doug's going to try to sneak in here and get the baby and sneak out. But I know, like if I was in that position, that's probably not going to work. My mindset going into here would be like, okay, I'm going to have to kill every person here. That way I can get my baby and get out of here, because the chances of you getting the baby and escaping successfully, like climbing through up the mountains and into the cave without them ever chasing you down and like catching you is, in my opinion, slim to none.
Yeah, I mean, just going in the house, there's two ways that's gonna go. There's either gonna be people in there, and you're probably not gonna be able to successfully sneak around people with a baby that's
Yeah.
gonna be making noise, or you're gonna go in there and there's gonna be nobody in there, and you're gonna get away with the baby. So having the dog in either one of those situations makes more sense. Because at least if there is people in there, the dog can fucking attack them and try to help you get out of that situation. I mean, it's a big fucking dog.
Yeah, me personally, I would have the mindset of every person I came across, I was just going to have to kill them or they were going to give me away.
Bro, that dog is the best weapon he's got. This motherfucker brought a baseball bat. After everything that's happened, instead of taking the gun, he takes a baseball bat. Like, you couldn't find a knife? Like,
Yeah, I would
even
need a
a
knife.
I know Big Bob's got like fucking 50 knives all over that fucking camper. There's no way that I'm going on a rescue mission to find my baby with a bat. And the best thing I have is this German Shepherd that I'm gonna lock in a fucking car.
So once he is inside, he finds this like overweight bald woman watching TV while she combs a wig in her lap. I 100% would have killed her from behind.
Yep.
There would have been no doubt in my mind I would have killed her.
Yep. So that what I was saying earlier. I'm glad I didn't remember a lot of the details of this movie because I was literally putting that in my notes at the time. Yeah, no doubt. I would have bashed this bitch's fucking head in. It would have been an instant kill. You may have heard the hit of a bat, but you wouldn't have heard her make any noise. And if there was somebody else in the house, then so fucking be it. I may have peeked around in the other rooms real quick before I beat her fucking head in. But this bitch would have been dead, for sure.
I love the fact that she's watching Divorce Court. Like,
how is she watching TV out there? How'd they get cable?
well, they don't have, Divorce Court was one of those, like,
Yeah, but even with the antenna,
I don't know.
you can't get cell phone service out there, but the government set up antennas so they could watch TV, obviously. So the mannequins can watch TV before they get blown up. You know what it was? They wanted to see how atomic bombs affected the TV.
Yeah. Even cannibalistic murderers like trash TV. So he is able to quietly sneak up to the bed and get his baby. And as he is creeping towards the door, the bald lady comes around the corner and domes him with what I think was a shovel. I don't know what exactly it was. Did you see what it was?
No, because I was literally looking up and looking down as I typed this. And if my typing was, if no one else is in the house, I would have bashed her fucking head in with the bat. And then as I finished typing that, she knocks him the fuck out.
It happens
So I
real
just
quick.
and that's why. That's why you should have taken her out.
Well, whatever it was, he got knocked the fuck out.
Sure, it could have been like a pillow and knocked Doug's ass out.
This next part's really cool. We then see Doug wake up inside of a small box with blood splatter on the walls. As the camera pans back, we can see like dead bodies underneath Doug. He then wakes up and tries to like stand up, only to realize that the lid to this box is only about a foot above him. We then get a shot from outside of the box to see that Doug has been put inside of one of those old big freezers.
Man, the actor that plays him did such a good job. I don't know why this stood out to me. Hitting his head on the top when he wakes up. Like, that's such a realistic reaction of just waking up and going to sit up, hitting your head. But man, what a horrible fucking place
Oh,
to
God.
wake up.
Oh, God, yeah.
It, could you imagine the fucking smell?
Would probably kill you.
And obviously, they have to show you in the movie, but it's obviously pitch black dark in there from his point of view.
No,
And
it
he
has that
to
clear
light
top.
I know, but he has to light a match
Yeah.
before he realizes that that's bodies in there with him. And I would have been pretty sure that there was something dead in there when I woke up. Because I could imagine
Yeah.
the smell would have been awful.
So he strikes a match to see like what else is inside this box, and to his surprise, it's just a bunch of like cut up body parts drenched in blood. I think those were a set of dead boobs in front of him. I think it's like the torso, like from here up to like the neck. That's all that's there.
I'm sure Lizard had something to do with that. He's like, I want those boobs.
That's like such a his name-
Otis?
Yeah, such
That's
a Otis Firefly thing.
Yeah, that's definitely an Otis thing to do. Otis probably would have put the boobs on and then killed her
terrifying.
boyfriend.
That's Art the Clown.
Yeah. Maybe the first time in the history there's been boobs in a horror movie that I missed. I did not see the boobs.
He just starts like freaking out and like banging on the lid, which I would have had a very similar reaction. I would have fucking exploded out of the top of that thing like the fucking Hulk.
Yeah, they did a very good reaction to how that would have been.
Yeah, he beats the shit out of this cheap ass cooler and eventually breaks the lid and escapes the box of death. Meanwhile, outside, we see that our boy Beast is sick of being on the sidelines here, and he finds a way to pull back the old carpet of the car and escape out of the hole in the floor.
You noticed they left his baseball bat on top of this freezer that they locked him in. That's how unthreatened by a fucking baseball. You think they would have left a gun sitting up there?
No,
They would have never left a gun sitting up there. They're like, this idiot brought a baseball bat. I'll just leave it here for him if he gets out.
So Doug finds his Louisville Slugger and begins to quietly walk through this house where he finds a table set in the dining room with a family of 1950s mannequins and the crispy burnt body of Ted. No, why did I write Ted?
Big
I literally wrote Ted.
There's no Ted in this movie.
I said the crispy burnt body of Ted.
What?
No idea.
Bro, I wonder sometimes if you do it on purpose. Like you just
I'm writing really fast is the problem. Like I have to type super fast.
Yeah, I know, but where does Ted come from?
I don't fucking know.
Every now and then I'll have a dyslexic moment and maybe like go to like write or type something backwards and I'll realize it. But Ted?
It's a 3-letter word like Bob.
It's
No idea. So he doesn't find the crispy body of Ted because there is no Ted.
There's not a T, E, or a D in Bob.
He finds Bob, and Bob has a small American flag sticking out of his head. He then starts to hear someone singing the national anthem in the other room, and as he creeps around the corner, he sees a very fucked up person, I guess. It's hard to describe.
It's just his mega mind when he's old.
So this guy, he is in an old wheelchair from, I don't know, like the 40s. And he is sitting there with his head like leaned back. And at first you can't really tell what you're looking at because of like the sunlight in the room. But as Doug moves closer, you start to see how fucked up this dude is. Like,
It's gross.
when she was pregnant, his mom must have drank straight from the radiation tap.
Bro, this guy's head killed his mom when he was born. It literally ripped her in half.
His dad busted a huge nut of nuclear fallout into his wife's vajayjay. So this guy has this this guy has this huge neck. Like the fat roll that would be on like an obese person's belly. Like that's his neck. And he also has this like gigantic fucking head. It's got to weigh like, his head's got to weigh like 50 pounds.
Yeah, he obviously can't move because his head's so big. So he's just slouched over this chair.
It looks like if you put like a beach ball in a pillowcase. So Doug asks him where his baby is, which he replies that he doesn't know because he can never leave the house.
Yeah, clearly.
Yeah.
This guy's been sitting here since he was 14.
And then we get a shot of his gross ass head, which because he has some hair, it makes it look like a really big ball sack.
Big nuts.
It looks like the episode of South Park where Randy like microwaves his nuts and they're huge and like wheels them around the wheelbarrow. That's what this
Yeah.
guy's head looks like.
It's like a big ass fucking sack.
Yeah.
I don't know how else to put that.
If I were Doug, I would not be able to resist hitting that big ass fucking head with that baseball bat. I'll split that shit open like a pinata.
Yeah, considering this guy was like how much of a smartass he was being, and just start singing like the national anthem because of the American flag and Big Bob. Yeah, as soon as this guy said, "I don't know, I can't move," I
Kabow.
would have been there. All right, that's all I need to know.
Oh, you don't need to live anymore.
I would have just been curious, like,
What's in there?
how thick is his skull? If his head's that big, probably doesn't have a very thick skull.
So Doug decides to let this guy live, and as he is looking around the house,
Mistake.
this guy begins to bitch to Doug about how Doug's people pushed his family out and caused them to have to live in the mines, and then they set off the bombs, which caused them all to have these health problems. And I'm like, the government did fuck them over on their land. I agree with that. But their dumbasses decided to stay in the fucking mines, and they got all the radiation, so it's their fucking fault. Like, they should have left.
Yeah, I agree. They definitely, this, I don't know why in the fuck you would possibly want to stay. I mean,
I mean, especially after they tore the town down, there's nothing to even stay for at this point.
Yeah. Bad decision.
Well, Doug has finally had it with this guy's fucking history lesson and demands to know where his baby is. When suddenly, Pluto's big ass comes Kool-Aid manning it right through the fucking wall. But he doesn't want to know if Doug is interested in a tall, cold glass of sugar water. He wants to kill him. Pluto has this like pickaxe in his hand and just like starts wildly swinging it at Doug, who is able to dodge like the first few swings. He manages to get Doug on the floor, and right before he swings that death blow, our boy Beast gets tagged into the ring and bites the fucking shit out of Pluto's arm, causing him to drop the axe.
The dog literally had to escape out of the car to help him.
Yeah.
Like, if he would have taken the dog with him initially, that dog would have tore that old lady apart, and he would have had the baby.
Yeah.
And the dog. And maybe got out of there, maybe not. But he would have made it further than what he did. And I'm sure the dog would have had a great time with that guy's giant nutsack of a fucking head.
So at this point, I was 100% with Doug. And until he does this bullshit right here. And I don't think I could ever forgive him for what he is about to do. So now Beast has a death grip on Pluto's arm. Pluto's like freaking out, swinging the dog all over the place. And what does Doug do? He fucking leaves Beast to fight on his own.
This guy fucking sucks. I was not 100% with Doug, but I was, still rooting for Doug. You left the fucking dog. Like, you could have used the base, and the one time that your stupid ass weapon of a baseball bat would have actually been of use is why somebody was distracted fighting off a dog.
Well, he could have picked up the axe. Like, the dog bit him and he drops the axe, picked the axe up and fucking hit him with it.
Beast comes in there and is like, I got you, and then you left him.
Yeah.
You left him.
Yeah, totally fucked him over.
This dog's like, you know what? Fuck this guy.
That's what he should have did. Dog don't do that.
No, dogs don't. That's why you shouldn't kill them in movies. Sad.
So Doug then picks up his bat and runs into another room and tries to barricade the door. Pluto then begins landing a full fucking punches to Beast's face, and he ain't letting go. We then see Pluto throw Beast into another room, and he winces in pain. We then see Pluto burst through another wall, grabbing Doug by his neck and lifting him up in the air.
Yeah, the guy already busted through one wall. What did you think locking a door was going to do? I'm going to barricade myself in this room.
Did you see the actor who plays Pluto? Did you see them film the scene where he busts through that glass window?
I didn't see that.
Oh man, so he bursts through the window and they do the scene or whatever where he's like swinging the axe and breaking stuff, and then they yell cut and the guy's like, fuck yeah. I mean, he's like so
He
amped.
did roids for this part.
And he literally, like, after the scene calms down, he like looks at the director and he was like, that was my first time going through glass. Thank you for letting me do that. That was fucking awesome.
He definitely did roids. I
He-
know who doesn't have a giant nutsack.
Yeah, it's great. You gotta go back and watch that.
That dude's big.
Yeah.
Like it's a big dude.
He then throws him like across the room and begins trying to hit him with the axe again. Doug manages to get back to the bat when Pluto chops the bat in half. Doug then takes the broken end and stabs it into Pluto's stomach. Pluto then steps back and slowly pulls the wood out of his body and then smacks the other living shit out of Doug with it.
It literally took this bat being cut in half to not be a shitty weapon. Like the bat was more useful, literally cut in half.
He then throws Doug through 2 different walls and then slams. There's a lot of wall destruction in this.
He gets his fucking ass
Oh,
beat.
yeah. Yeah, he then slams the axe down onto Doug's hand, severing 2 of his fingers.
Which was a fucking awesome practical effect scene.
Yeah.
You wouldn't think, just in your head, out of all the cool kills we get in horror movies, that seeing somebody's fingers cut off would be that cool looking, but I honestly thought it was awesome.
Pluto then holds the axe above Doug's head, about to deliver the final strike, when Doug then takes a screwdriver and stabs Pluto's foot into the floor. He then grabs the flag from Bob's head and stabs it through Pluto's neck, which also looked awesome. As Pluto drops to his knees, struggling for air, Doug slams the axe right into the top of his head.
Which was also awesome
Yep.
looking.
The guy with the metal holding his head, like the metal neck thing, comes running over with the shotgun, but Doug is hiding behind a car and slashes through his knee. He drops the gun and falls over onto the hood. Doug then plants the axe deep into the guy's back. When he pulls it back out, the guy falls to the ground, and then Doug flips it over to the pick side and puts it straight through his eye.
Which is also awesome as fuck looking. How did Doug not kill the big head guy? How do you not in that situation after going through all that? After this fucking guy's like slunched over this chair with this giant nutsack of a fucking head, like laughing as you're getting your ass beat. How in the fuck do you not turn around and just finish him off with that axe?
Well, Beast was like, yo, save some for me. Maybe that's what it was.
Beast didn't get him
Yeah, he
right
did.
off the rip.
I mean,
He radios to
injured.
kill the baby.
He was injured, man. He got fucking thrown.
Yeah, well, it's exactly why Doug should have, because apparently somebody gave the guy with the giant head who can't move a radio.
Yeah. So a ball sack guy sees this through the window and radios to Lizard to kill the baby. We then see Beast enter the room and begin to growl. As the camera pans away, we can then hear Beast ripping him to pieces, and I wish that we could have seen that. Next up, we see the girl in the red hoodie, whose name is Ruby. She approaches the baby and begins to play with him. We then see Lizard grab a giant fucking meat cleaver and demands Ruby leave. Right as Lizard pulls the blanket back, he discovers Ruby swapped out the baby for a baby pig. Lizard gets pissed at this and begins chasing after Ruby.
Man, it hit me in this scene how awful Ruby's life has probably been up until this point. Knowing what they did earlier in this movie and how they've treated the women in this movie, I would imagine this girl has had a fucking awful upbringing.
Oh, yeah. So as Doug is running through the town, he hears the baby crying and looks up to see Ruby running with her up the mountain. Back at the camper, Bobby and Brenda hear the trip line go off and begin to panic. As they look around the camp to find the intruder, they discover someone has stolen their mother's dead body from out of the SUV. Bobby directs Brenda to go get the trailer ready as he follows the blood trail leading into the mountains. He then comes across a long-haired dirty man pulling his mother's heart out and eating it. I would have shot that fucking dude right then and there.
Yep, how do you not shoot him?
I don't know.
Bobby sucks. He literally had a perfect shot. The guy didn't even know he was there. And he's been toting this fucking gun around like he's John fucking Wayne the whole movie. And he gets a perfect shot on somebody who is like ripping his mom's dead body apart. And instead of taking a shot, he falls to the ground trying to run off. And then starts shooting behind him, not even looking.
Yeah,
Guy's
that's terrible.
awful.
The man spots Bobby, who then turns around and runs back to the camper with the man chasing behind him. We then see Brenda pulling out 2 propane tanks and opening the valves all the way. Bobby manages to shoot the man twice, once in the shoulder and once in the hand, but this doesn't stop him. Bobby then runs into the camper, placing a strip of matches at the bottom of the door. The man punches through the window and grabs Brenda by the hair. Bobby then grabs a bungee cord and ties the man's hands to the window sill, allowing Brenda to get free. While the man attempts to get free, Bobby and Brenda run to the other side of the camper and escape out of the window. They then run far away from the camper and hide behind a big rock, waiting for their trap to go off. The man finally breaks free and runs to the other side of the camper, still thinking the 2 are in there. And as he opens the door, we see the matches strike and the whole camper explode into a big fireball.
Brenda's reaction is so happy when they kill this guy. It's like you literally killed one. It took an
one.
entire magazine of bullets and you blowing up your only cover and any type of like provisions you may have had to kill one.
Yeah, I thought about that, and destroying the camper would have been my last resort move. I would not have the first person that came baited them into the camper to blow it, because so they know for a fact there's at least 2 from the night, So, okay, you've killed one. What are you gonna do when the second one shows up?
Well, I think they know there's more than 2 because there was the whole burning of the body, and then there was 2 in the camper at the same time. And I don't understand. I guess this was coming out of the 90s where they wanted to blow shit up all the time, 80s, I guess they were still trying to just blow shit up in movies. But they literally had his hands tied. You could have killed him any way you
Just
wanted
shot
to.
him in the face.
Yeah. But instead they just blew up all of everything they had, any shelter they had at night, any provisions that they had in there, which is really going to bite them in the ass after this movie, I would imagine. Yeah, not worth blowing up the camper. I would have tried to do anything before I had to blow up the camper.
So next we see Doug chasing Ruby through the mountains. He is finally able to get in front of her and cut her off. She walks towards him to hand over the baby when suddenly Lizard drops down from above and tackles Doug to the ground. Lizard and Doug trade blows for a while Doug is getting his ass beat once again. Ruby takes off running with the baby, which causes Lizard to leave Doug and chase after her. Doug, who is now very badly beaten and covered in blood, opens his eyes to see that his wedding ring is still attached to his hand, even though his finger was cut off. And this gives him the strength to get up and go after his baby.
And I've never seen spike strips used as a weapon in a movie before.
It's cool.
Yeah.
Weapon.
I was wondering what that was over his shoulder and why he was carrying it. Because at first I thought that he had like a fucking belt of 50 cals like over his shoulder. And I'm like, what? That doesn't make sense. And then throughout the movie, you realize, no, what the fuck is he carrying around? And it's actually a pretty effective weapon.
Yeah. Lizard catches Ruby and grabs her leg when suddenly Doug clocks him right in the face with the back of the shotgun. He then begins to beat Lizard's face in with the butt of the gun. Once Lizard falls to the ground, Doug then decides to use the correct end of the gun and shoot him in the stomach and then in the neck. Lizard falls over dead, and like a dumbass, Doug drops the gun next to his body and walks over to Ruby to get his baby back. As Doug holds his child in his arms and begins to cry, we see Lizard in the background get up, now holding the fucking gun. Ruby sees this and immediately runs at Lizard, tackling him off of the cliff behind him, causing them both to fall to their deaths as they land on the rocks below. As Bobby and Brenda walk around the scene of the exploded camper, looking for anything that could be salvaged, they find the man that tried to kill them, impaled by a piece of metal, but still alive. The man then laughs at them and tries to grab Bobby. We then suddenly see Brenda come running up from behind them and slamming the axe right into his forehead. As they begin to walk away from the wreckage, they spot Doug, the baby, and Beast walking towards them. They all embrace each other as the camera zooms out, and we see that someone else is now watching them through a pair of binoculars, and the screen goes black.
Bro, Beast should have been walking Doug on a leash. Like the way this
baby
movie
on
has
his
went,
back.
yeah, you would think like there's Doug crawling around, bloodied. Beast has got the leash in his mouth, pulling Doug along. So yeah, I had Beast and Ruby as the MVPs of this movie. The baby would not have gotten out of this if it wasn't for Ruby. They would have killed Bobby in the first. He would have been the first death of this movie if it wasn't for her.
Yeah, true.
So yeah, there's a lot that I didn't like about the lizard's death scene, being that unless it was some really, really bad target shot, he gets shot in the neck with a shotgun from like 10 feet away, and it doesn't
Kill him.
blow half of his fucking neck out of it out.
I mean, his jugular was
that
for
would've
sure
pretty
hit.
much almost decapitated him. Unless it was some type of target shot, and even in that case, getting shot in the neck would have more than likely been fatal. And then, like, what the fuck is his name? Doug throws the gun down
That was
immediately
terrible.
after. I mean, I get if it was out of shells, but you wasted 3 on a job that should have taken 1.
I
You just
wouldn't-
shot him in the head.
I wouldn't have got rid of the gun until I was out of there.
Yeah,
Completely out of there.
like even now at the end of the movie, they still need the gun,
Yeah.
especially if he has shells for it. You carried a baseball bat around all this time. You literally hiked miles with a bunch of junk you found in cars in a crater, but you throw that gun down immediately? Like, that didn't make any sense. But yeah, the end of the movie, and they're still stranded, and all the provisions are now blown up thanks to Bobby. So if they had any food and water, it's gone.
Well, they do survive. They're not in the second one, but the whole idea that Wes Craven had for the second one is I'm pretty sure Wes Craven and his son actually wrote the second one. And they originally wrote it. The movie was supposed to be that Brenda it was like real traumatized by this, and she ends up joining like the National Guard to kind of like so she's not so scared anymore. And because they tell the authorities about what was going on there, the government ends up sending the National Guard in to kind of get the former base, like cleared out and get everything in order, hunt these guys down. And they're originally going to send Brenda back there with the National Guard people because she was there, like she could kind of tell them what they're looking for and all this stuff. But unfortunately, the actress was on the show Lost at the time and couldn't come back and do the second movie. So they still did the whole, they tell the authorities and the National Guard comes in. That's the whole second movie. So they do survive.
Never seen the second one. Well, I don't know how they survived. I guess, I don't know, probably walked back and took that car from the gas station. Everybody's dead there now.
So speaking of the gas station set was actually completely built inside and out on location in Morocco. And it was so authentic that occasionally people would stop there to buy gas. And a funny thing is, the gas station's name was called Gas Haven, which rhymes with Wes Craven.
Huh. Didn't catch that.
Yeah. So Jameson Goy and his team, who had done previous work on Hellraiser Hellseeker and Halloween Resurrection, had done over 130 visual effects for the film. A large part of that was digitally constructing the testing village, which was actually, like I said, it's only one street that was built and then everything else was digitally added. The team also went in and warped a lot of the mutants' faces slightly.
Okay.
Yeah.
That makes sense. Because I thought when they showed the actual pictures and the documentary part, the part of it that I watched. I thought it looked, when you seen them, blown up and still framed, thought it looked pretty CGI'd. So that's why when you told me they were real pictures, I was a little confused. That makes sense.
Yeah, the faces that they digitally, it wasn't in the beginning, it's the actual people in the movie. Like Ruby, the reason her face looks the way it is because they actually went in and digitally kind of stretched and moved like one of her eyes is kind of stretched and down low. She has really big eyes too. They did that. Those two little kids that are in the movie, they didn't wear any prosthetics or anything. They literally warped their faces. So it kind of looked like they had some deformity, but they didn't. No, the pictures in the beginning are all legitimate pictures.
I wonder if they edited them in any way though to kind of make them more dramatic. I don't know. I have to go back and look at I'll show you what picture specifically that they show in there. Yeah, thought you were gonna tell me those kids were actually deformed for a second. They
no,
went in and CGI'd them to make it worse.
At least one, maybe both of the kids were actually children of like the production designer. So they were, regular kids. So originally, the trailer attack scene was supposed to be more gruesome.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. The director had the idea of replacing the birds with kittens and having the mutants put the kittens in a blender with milk and turn it on so the mutants have a cat milkshake.
Kitty milk.
Yeah. He pitched the idea to Wes Craven, who strongly disapproved and was fearful that people would try to copycat the scene.
I don't think anybody would have tried to copycat the scene, but yeah, that's rough. I mean, well, I did mention why they don't kill cats in movies.
All right, so ratings and kill count. The total kills. So the kill count for this movie varies depending on what you consider. I've seen a kill count all the way up to like 38.
Were they counting the miner's body?
Yeah,
in
they
there?
did all that.
One interesting part about that, because I didn't catch the newspaper that said this has been 4 decades, and you really don't catch that unless you pause and really look at the newspapers. But the miners' bodies, when Doug is going right before he finds the town, you can actually see that all of them they were really old pictures. They were really old black and white pictures. So that gives you the idea that this has been going on for a long time.
So I went through the kills, and in my opinion, we got 16.
That sounds about right.
We have 3 unnamed scientists in the beginning. We also have the unnamed man who tried to get help from the scientists. You have the first dog who was, cut open. You have Jeb, the gas station guy who committed suicide. The bird who was bitten in half. You have Big Bob who was burned to death, who's also goes by the name Ted. You have Lynn who got shot. You have Ethel who got shot. Goggle who was the guy who was killed by Beast. Pluto who was killed by Doug with the axe. Cyst who was he was the guy with the head thing.
The ball sack?
No. He was the guy with the metal head thing. He was killed by Doug.
Seems like the other one would have been called Cyst.
No, he's called Big Brain, and he was killed by Beast.
Big Ball.
And you have Lizard, who was killed by Ruby, and Ruby, who was sacrificed herself for Doug. And then finally, Papa Jupiter, who was stabbed in the head by Brenda.
I didn't know they'd given all the mutants names.
Oh, yeah, they all have names.
Yeah, I didn't. I caught Lizard and Pluto, but I didn't know they all had names. Did you make up the Jeb for the gas station attendant?
No.
He got credited on IMDb as the gas station attendant.
Oh, no.
I thought that was really
weird.
weird.
Off of just a regular kill count.
Yeah, I thought that was really weird. He didn't get a name. So speaking of kill count, I thought about it, and Beast and Doug killed the same amount of people in this movie.
They tied?
They tied. I'm pretty sure Doug only killed 2 people. Because technically he didn't kill Lizard. Ruby did. Because even with a shotgun and 3 shots, Doug is not capable of killing people. But he did kill He kills the guy he kills Pluto, and then he kills the guy outside the house.
Yeah.
But I think that's the only two people he kills.
Well, he would have had the third if he would have finished off Lizard, but Ruby killed Lizard.
Yeah, if it wasn't for Ruby, Lizard probably would have killed him because he threw the gun down and turned his back immediately. So yeah, Beast is tied for the most kills. Out of the good guys, at least.
All right, so favorite kill. So my favorite kill, easily the gas station. The gas station guy. That looked fucking awesome. My close second was Pluto. I thought that flag through the neck thing was great.
Well, sometimes I don't know why we do best kills, because they're always the same.
Not always.
But yeah, most of them are, though. Not Big Bob, Jeb, gas station guy. Him shooting himself, I feel like that's a word.
That is,
actually. Him shooting himself was undoubtedly the coolest kill scene. I guess, yes, it is a kill scene. A self-kill scene. There we go. That's a better way to say it. His was by far the best. My close second is gotta be Big Bob being set on fire on the tree. I will say that scene did have the worst CGI in the movie. It's the only time you can tell in the kills that there's CGI used, because the scene of him like moving on fire is very clearly CGI. But I thought the after scene, after he was dead, the body that they made and hung up there and actually set on fire looked fucking awesome.
Yeah, they explained how they did it. It was shot in like a couple different ways. Like one of them was him up there with the CGI fire. Another one was they did a bunch of really cool. It gets fucked up by the CGI fire, but they actually did a bunch of really awesome prosthetics all over his arm and the side of his face where his skin is like bubbling, and it gets covered up by the fire, but you do get to see it in the making of. And then they do where they built that full body that looks like him that they actually set on fire.
Yeah, that was the part that made it number 2 for me, was that last one. After he's dead, they had like the charred body up there, and that was the scene you could tell was real fire. And I thought it looked good, and not only did it look good, it was probably one of the more brutal ways to kill somebody, is to tie them or nail them to a tree, whatever they did to him, and literally set him on fire in front of his family. That's rough.
All right, so rating. I gave this movie a 3.7, which makes it better than Strangers Chapter 1. So I liked this movie. I liked how brutal it was. I will say that I feel like the climax of the movie was in the middle of the movie. You pretty much, you go up and then you hit the middle of the movie and then you go down. And
I can agree with that.
I don't have a problem with it, but I was expecting another, I don't know, I was expecting something similar to the middle to be the end. And really what we got at the end was a lot of questionable choices by the character and nowhere near as brutal as you would think. He goes into where they're all at and it would be a lot more brutal than it was. But I mean, they did catch him and then they just put him in a cooler. Like they didn't even cut him up or anything.
Yeah,
So,
and his with Lizard too. You would think that there would be an end scene of him just like brutally murdering Lizard.
yeah.
After everything he had been through to get his baby, but
Yeah, so I feel like the film was probably easily like a 4 up until the middle, and then once we get through the middle, it just kind of falls. It just kind of falls off. I mean, it doesn't completely fall off, but it falls off from where it was. But yeah, 3.7.
yeah, that middle scene, the whole Big Bob being set on fire and everything that happens after that, is by far the best part of this movie. As far as the horror aspect of it, definitely the best part. I gave this movie a 3.8. I think this is overall
Close.
a really fun movie. It's got some awesome kills in it. Thought the setting particularly the nuclear blast town was really good. It was really creepy. The practical effects team were awesome. The brutality of the kills, obviously. I think this movie did an incredible job with like just the unsettling creepiness. There's so much just really unsettling parts, especially with the main characters. As I said earlier, I think us horror fans quietly root for the bad guys in a lot of horror movies, but this was one that you absolutely hate them. Like, you don't root for the main antagonist at all. They were super creepy, unsettling, and for lack of better words, just fucking gross. Let's see, outside of a few really questionable bad decisions from the characters at the end, which a lot of horror movies have, I don't have too much bad to say about it. I think it's a really fun movie to watch. Definitely suggest watching it if you haven't.
Yeah, it's a good movie, man. It's like it holds up and it's enjoyable. I think just kind of your average regular horror fan would like it. I definitely am not regretting purchasing it. I'm glad I have it.
I think it was a really fun movie to cover.
Yeah, it was a good pick. So once again, we thank you guys for listening. Please give us a follow or like if you enjoy the show. Check out our website, check out our socials, and tell a friend, a family member, or your middle of nowhere creepy gas station attendant about the show. We hope to see you next time. Got any last words?
Beast for President 2024.
Remember, folks, don't take the fucking shortcut.